history of street art, graffiti and street art. Now, I'm not versed really well in, and you know, the total history. It's very deep. There's just like any art history. It goes on forever. So, but I do want to touch on a couple of like connecting the dots of where we are now and where we started. So, you know, we could go as far back as the Aborigines, which, you know, they actually would put a hand on your wall and gurgle some ink and spray paint their hands. And again, you know, graffiti in a sense has always been a way to tell the world that you've been here. It's like pissing on the wall. And really, I mean, that's like the definition. Sorry about that. But you know, there's so many different definitions of it. Is it political? Obviously, I mean, I think anybody that has grown in a third world country or a developing country where politics plays a big part, and the media is kind of controlled by the state and so forth. Graffiti is a powerful tool for individuals to make a statement and sort of you know, get the word out, you know, at their peril, so to speak. But we're not going to go that far back, and really, yeah, I just want to touch upon graffiti as we know it today. Is part of a cultural hip-hop scene. It's part of something that we identify culturally in America. It's certainly born in the East Coast, and it pretty much started in the early 60s. And it started with a fellow by the name of Daryl McRae, who's nicknamed Cornbread. And basically, in high school, he just wanted to go around and tell this girl that he loved her. So he started writing Cornbread loves Cynthia, that's her name, right? And then it kind of took off. People started paying attention, and all of a sudden, he started writing Cornbread all over Philadelphia, and people took notice. From there, you know, we'll jump forward to Tacky 183, and he was a messenger here in New York, and again started tagging because he was in the subway system. He was tagging inside the subway system, and all of a sudden people started taking notice of that. In the New York Times in particular wrote a story about him in 1971. And tagging is basically writing your name. It's not necessarily, it hadn't evolved into an art form where it's you know, illustrators or artists that really have a sort of fine art grounding. Tagging is just a matter of scribbling your name. So let's say you call yourself Cynthia, tagging your name all over the place. Which you see that there's so many offshoots of street art. There's the graffiti, which is the traditional aerosol. There's stencils. There's wheat pasting. There's stickers. Tagging is another form, whether you do it with markers and or you do it with aerosol. So after this article broke in 1971, the lid was popped open. This is a way to sort of become famous. I mean, part of this is the fame game. From there, we went to the subway systems, which that's where it really took off. You know, the big subways in the 70s were a big part of the New York landscape. You couldn't see any book or any editorial or any TV visual out there about New York that didn't incorporate the subway with the big tags. And this fellow here is his name is Brendan Freddy, and he's one of the ones that sort of made rise to that. And of course, there's dozens and dozens of names that were doing this. From there, we get into the style wars. After people started cracking down on the subway system, and the police started getting really vigilant about getting these people off the trains. And as you notice now, our trains are pretty much cleaned up. People moved to the walls, and that's where no longer tagging was allowed, or sort of a viable thing. People had to go beyond that and develop 3D lettering, color, and really bring a visual style. Because it wasn't about just pissing on the wall anymore. It's about your craft and about your art, and that's how you sort of, you know, rose in the ranks. And Pistol is a representative of that era. And of course, once people started doing that, an easy form that came to be in the 80s was the idea of repasting posters. And Shepard Fairey, who you probably all know by now, started this in the 80s, and he had a screen shop in Lower Manhattan, and started making these posters of Andre the Giant, and just putting the word "obey" on that, and it just took off virally. All of a sudden, people were he was sending these posters to people all over the world, and people started putting them up, and it took off. I mean, he's really well known now, but he's been doing this for over 20 years. So that's, again, another offshoot of graffiti. Then we go into Banksy, who most of you probably know as well. He's a really witty British stencil artist who has crossed over, and this is where now we reach the point where street art, graffiti, and the people that are what I call the heavyweights, or what are called the heavyweights, are breaking into the gallery system and literally making thousands of dollars. I mean, a piece by Banksy, could sell for £200,000 plus. So that's pretty interesting. But really wonderful talent. And which brings us to something that's happening right down the street, right in Lower Manhattan from us. This is a deep project. This is a Brazilian, they're brothers called Os Gemelos, and they're doing this mural, which is right on Houston. So it sort of brings it all together. Again, it started off with the tagging of the aerosol can, tagging your names, evolving into the sort of 3D letter form and style. And then eventually just to mural. This is a pure mural art. A lot of this work is done with aerosol cans, all spray painted, stenciled, and it's really phenomenal. But these guys are doing really well. It's really well known globally.